Dr. Chavez, let's talk about sleep apnea. Sleep apnea lately, over the last few years, and frankly over the last few months, has been a lot in the news. The medical field starts realizing that a tremendous amount of more people have sleep apnea than was assumed. People didn't know why they need Coca-Cola, coffee, Red Bull and all that in the afternoon. They just thought something else is wrong, they're getting old. But really, sleep apnea might potentially be a big problem with it. And that said, where does a dentist come in here? Because that seems to be a big role. A dentist seems to be able to
That's actually a very good question. I don't know if you know this, but I've actually co-founded an organization in dentistry concerning sleep apnea, and something I'm very interested in. Sleep apnea is something that affects a lot of American males and females, especially over the age of 40. And it's very insidious because it's usually camouflaged with snoring. So somebody will be a snorer, and the wife will complain that they're a snorer, and many times they don't catch the fact that they're apneic also. And if you're an apneic, what's really happening is you're not breathing regularly in your sleep. So you're actually continuously drowning. And your brain has to go out of something called delta waves. Now, delta waves is the waves that your brain needs for it to sleep. And your brain, excuse me, your brain only sleeps when you're in delta waves. The importance of delta waves is this is the moment that the brain is sleeping. So an apneic will be sleeping, and the brain enters into delta waves. When you enter delta waves, your body becomes rigid. Your muscles actually become rigid. And what happens is the muscles of the throat collapse on itself, and you begin to choke. So if you watch an apneic, it's like... Okay, so what happens right there is for you to breathe again, your brain has to come out of delta waves, has to tell the muscles of your face and neck and your jaw to clench, to open up your airway, and you have that moment. And then you go back to your snoring, and then you don't breathe. And then you don't breathe, and then you choke again. And so your brain is forever going back to delta, out of delta, back to... So although you slept 8 hours, you wake up in the morning tired. You wake up in the morning feel like you need a coffee. You need 2 donuts. You need your sugar fix. And
that's already in the morning. Never mind that apparently in the afternoon it comes to haunt you even more so.
Yeah. Some of the classic signs are you wake up in the morning, even though you may have been in bed for 8 hours, you still feel like you need to sleep another hour. You need your sugar, you need your coffee. And then in the afternoon you start to get tired. You need your siesta, you need your little nap. You're driving a car, you're getting somnolent, you're getting tired, you want to sleep. You're the person in the movie theater that tends to nod off halfway through the movie. We all know somebody like that. Those are some of the characteristics of the apneics. Now, it doesn't mean that if you happen to enjoy a coffee in the morning and enjoy something sweet in the morning, it doesn't automatically make you an apneic. No, I understand. So you need to be screened for this. Yeah. There needs to be a diagnosis. Yeah. Yeah. So, for instance, if you're a male, and your neckline is 17 inches or more, you have a higher chance of being an apneic. If you're female and your neckline is 16 inches or more, you have a much higher chance of being an apneic.
Is that only because of the neckline? Because some people have bigger and some smaller neck, or is it because you gained, meaning you gained on weight?
It's just that we found that people will have necklines of 17 inches or more if they're male, and of the female of 16, they turn out that they are apneic. Now, you look at your bodybuilders, okay? Mm-hmm. Your bodybuilders often have big necks. Mm-hmm. Well, they're often apneic.
Really?
So you think, well, he has no fat on him. He's 5% fat. Yeah, and he's an apneic. Because when you build muscle, you build muscle outwards, but you build muscle inwards. So that little pipe that you have there is being constricted by these big Hercules muscles, right. and you're choking yourself. Right. So you can be a very fit-looking guy and be a big apneic, mm-hmm. or you could be a little bit more portly. When you gain weight this way, but your organs also gain weight inside. So it all tightens up.
Right. Now, also I've heard that most people who snore are sleep apneic, and most people who are sleep apneic probably snore. Not necessarily a complete match, but apparently a high relevancy. Is that true?
Yes, that's correct. There's definitely a high relevance between being snorer and being sleep apneic.
Mm-hmm.
Not all sleep apneics will snore, but usually they do.
Okay.
But you need to be. The key is just be tested.
Right.
Just find out.
Right. And of course, one of the reasons that you want to be tested is because you perhaps snore. Your spouse tells you so. You wake up, as you said, like, oh Jesus, another hour would just be great. And you get a little bit lows in the afternoon for no other apparent good reason. You know, and you think, you know, so all those things together might be that you get sleep apnea, or maybe your wife even tells you, hey, last night for a moment I thought you're not breathing. That's probably all a good sign. So you have that, get a little bit tested, and this testing doesn't have to be out of the, because you used to have to go to a sleep lab. Not needed anymore, right? You said something about can do it at home.
Yes, the patient today has multiple options as to how to evaluate whether or not they're apneic. They can go to a traditional sleep lab, or now we have ambulatory devices. For instance, something akin to like a headband, some of them you wear on the wrist, and you can take that home. You sleep in your own bed, and you just take this off in the morning, drop it off at your dental office, and then they will read it and let you know what's said. So it's become much more simple, actually much more cost effective also. It's not as expensive as it used to be. And if you happen to be an apneic, it's really important that you get treated, because you literally are drowning in your sleep.
Right.
It can lead to all sorts of aggravation of systemic issues. It's really important, if you have sleep apnea, that you address it, because systemically it has many implications. It increases the chance of premature heart attacks, strokes, Alzheimer's. If you have diabetes, it will aggravate it. For men, it will actually increase the chances of ED. So there's a multitude of systemic diseases and issues that are impacted by sleep apnea. It's very, very important. You are aging much more quickly. You're increasing the chances that you'll have chronic diseases to a much higher degree, and it's totally avoidable.
Right. Well, I mean, it makes sense that those whatever diseases and all kinds of other problem comes, because I think most of us know sleep deprivation. I mean, it's even used as torture, so it couldn't be a good thing, right?
No, it's not.
And oxygen deprivation, because you don't breathe. We know that couldn't be good for the brain and probably for lots of other things.
Absolutely.
Even making the onset of Alzheimer more fast and stuff, because as more as you damage, it don't give the food to such important parts, which is oxygen in this case. It couldn't be good, right?
No, it's not good.
Good. Now let's go to the part of where then this comes into treat.
Okay, very good.
You know, saying,
Sure.
How do we treat it?
The gold standard for treatment of sleep apnea is something called the CPAP machine. It's basically a vacuum cleaner in reverse. Instead of sucking, it blows air. And it's very effective at oxygenating you. It's very effective. It is the gold standard. Unfortunately, a very high percentage of Americans who own one, within 1 year, do not use it. I've heard as much as high as 70%. That being the case, then there's basically two other options.
And they don't use it mainly because of the clumsiness, right? Cannot turn and toss. The partner gets irritated by
the noise.
Noisiness, and most likely probably some psychological feedback of like, I mean, we imagine people with a mask of being the old people ready to go. Do you understand?
Sure.
And even though that's not the case here at all, I'm sure this has something to do with it.
Sure. No,
and traveling, right?
And it's mechanical, and in some cases doesn't fit really well, and bugs the patient, and they end up with sores and things like that. So the patient has basically two other options. One, they could have radical surgery in the back of their throat, where they cut out the palate, the soft palate, and the uvula, and it's incredibly, the recovery is incredibly painful, and it's miserable, and unfortunately there is a relatively high relapse within 5 years of the patient needing secondary surgical,
on top of it, of being uncomfortable,
because tissues relapse and relax again, etc. what your dentist can do, and this is one of the reasons why I was interested in it, because I'm a minimally invasive guy. I want to help people and touch them as little as possible and invade them as little as possible. And this is a solution that dentistry, it's a very elegant solution. Basically, it's like a retainer, something that you may have worn as a child or your child has worn. It's a retainer that you place in the mouth at night, just before you go to sleep. And it repositions your jaws maybe 1 millimeter, maybe 1.5 millimeters, 2 millimeters forward. And this opens your airway dramatically in some cases. Just absolutely amazing. And it'll take you from not breathing to suddenly breathing very comfortably, easily. And all you need to do is put a little oral device. Okay?
Not uncomfortable.
Not uncomfortable. Well, some patients will say it's slightly uncomfortable because they're not used to sleeping with something in their mouths. You know, it's about as uncomfortable, by and large, as a retainer. As you know, when you were a kid, when you first put the retainer, it didn't feel wonderful. You didn't go like, "Oh, I love retainers." You know.
Yeah.
But you've worn it for a week, and it's like, oh, it's part of me, right? I don't know if you remember that, but I certainly I certainly went through it, and that was my experience, and that's been my experience with my patients. So it's very straightforward, and it's in some cases it's just a miracle, you know. And of course you have to test. So once we give you the device, you use it for a week or two, and then we need to test you, make sure that we are efficacious. If we're not, then we need to modify it, maybe advance it a little bit more, open your airway more. But by and large, we're able to have very good results.
And then that lack of energy and all the other stuff that goes with it is gone.
It's unbelievable. When someone is an apneic and they finally experience a good night's rest where they did not experience apnea in their sleep, it's unbelievable the way they feel the next day. It's like an amazing drug. It makes them so want to wear that device. You know, I'll have patients who we make the device for them. They come back the next week and they says, "You've got to make me another one. I can't sleep one night without this. If I lose this, if my dog chews it,
I want
I don't want to be one."
a little bit like people like me who start needing reading glasses. It's like I want one in the car, I want one everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely, because it takes us about 2 weeks to have it ordered.
Right.
And some patients can't even imagine going 2 weeks now without their device.
Right.
You know, they just couldn't imagine it.
And as you mentioned that now, they want that extra one. I heard that a apnea device like you make, or for that much the machine, the compressor, the CPAP machine, if you put it on, next morning you will be full of energy. You will have slept.
Correct.
If you leave it off, like with reading glasses, if you put them on, you can read what was said. If you don't put it on, you'll sign your death warrant and you wouldn't even know it because you didn't see anything. It's that way, right? So, which makes again this device which is probably very small, right? You can put it in your pocket or something.
Absolutely.
You can travel with it very easy. Because you might not want to take that bulky machine with you.
Correct.
Nothing against it, as you said. It works when you wear it.
Yes.
I once asked a person who is a sports guru teacher, not my one, and I said, "So, what's the best exercise a person can do?" And of course, I being Mr. Smart, I expected him to say something like swimming, and I know it all, I know. He says, "Well, Mahmoud, the best exercise you can do is the one you actually will do."
Isn't that the truth?
And isn't that the truth? So it says, no matter how good a certain thing is, if we don't do it, it will not do us any good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why I guess this particular thing comes in. And yes, it does work. It's not that it works very, very little, this dental appliance, right? It works quite good.
Oh, no, it works very well.
It works very well.
It works very well.
And it's convenient, and it's probably even cheaper than the CPAP machine.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely.
Beautiful. So, if people wake up slightly tired, exhausted, more than they feel like due to the fact that I did sleep, if they have symptoms in the afternoon, need of that Red Bull, Coca-Cola, coffee, whatever it is they take, and maybe snore, and maybe are a little bit overweight, and all kinds of little things together, some of them or all of them, they should go and get checked out.
Absolutely.
and go to a dentist, because changes out of DMD will not recommend a dental appliance.
Yes.
It's a matter of trade. If I'm a carpenter, I use a nail and a hammer. If I'm a metal guy, I use a welding machine and metal rods to fix things. It's just how it goes.
Right.
You know?
It really depends on diagnosis. So the key is to be diagnosed. And once you're diagnosed,
and by diagnosed you mean tested.
Be tested
with a night's sleep, measured. Did you wake up or not? Right. That's the only. That's the thing, right?
Exactly. So be tested. Know your reality, and just know there are multiple solutions for you, and dentistry has one for you also.
Beautiful. Thank you very much again.
You're welcome.